Hello everybody and welcome along to Cairn Hill Cabin in County Cavan in Ireland, and my name is Margaret McKenna, and today I'm going to paint for you a portrait. This is my fourth live stream acrylic class I've done. So far I've done a landscape, a still life, a cat, and now it's a time of a human to have a go. So I've been doing a lot of kids art classes as well online, just to keep everybody occupied at this time, because it's well, it's a very strange time, to be honest. I think we're all feeling a bit housebound at times, but all for the best, because we need to get rid of this terrible virus without too many unfortunate situations arising and too many loved ones either becoming ill or worse. So this way I hope to try and, I suppose, entertain people for a little while and teach people a little bit more about how I approach painting. Because I think many artists have different ways of doing it, and if you go on to another site you'll see different ideas and different tips. It's a bit like I always think bakery programs. If you go on you'll see the different ideas people have, and hopefully you'll pick something up off me that another person you might pick up another tip of. It's a little bit of a challenge now, I have to be honest, doing it live, because obviously it's sort of a warts and all type of a painting. I'm going to be doing it. There's going to be no editing. It's just I have to do it. Hi Karen. I have to do it there and then on the spot. So you can go off and make yourself a cup of tea at times and come back, because there'll be times I'll look at the painting, I'll concentrate on the painting, and other times I'll be telling you as I go along what way I'm approaching it. And feel free to ask any questions along the way, please. And if I see them, I'll answer them there and then. If I don't, I'll answer them afterwards, because sometimes I don't see them till the end of the class, and then I'll answer them accordingly. Hello Frank, how are you? How's everybody? Hope you're all keeping well and suitably busy. I'm busy anyway. If not here, I'm busy doing other things around the house, so I'm not bored anyway. Now, okay, so we're going to get to the painting the picture. Now, the picture I decided to do the portrait of, if you look at my Facebook page, I have two laptops here, so that's why I look over here at the other picture, so I can see the close-up of the actual picture I'm painting. I just looked around for what I would actually do. So I decided to do a picture of portrait of Maggie Smith, who's a very well-known and amazing actress, and she's a great face, of course, too, to draw and paint. And the one I chose actually from Downton Abbey, and she's got this really quizzical kind of a sort of a smile on her face, which is quite interesting to paint. So before I actually put any paint on canvas, I think I've said this before, and what I'll say each time in a class before I start is how I approach a picture is I always start from the general to the detail. In other words, I don't go in and start saying I'm going to work on, say, these eyes. Sorry, look at that, I've already got green paint all over me, and I'm only here about 5 seconds. So that is typical of me. Anyhow, I always work from the general to the detail, because you can get caught up in a little tiny piece very easily. And I used to myself as a younger artist. I would often say start doing an eye, get this lovely eye going on, but the problem is it wouldn't fit with the rest of the face. So you really need to work on the overall picture first, and then you work gradually down to the detail. So filling it in bit by bit, and then until you're satisfied. I hope in this hour and a half or so to get it to the level where I'm happy with it, either happy with it, or happy with it to the point where I can say, okay, I can tweak that and tweak that, but you know, I'm getting there now, I'm happy. So in that time, I hope that you will have learned something from it, and it might go over at the time a little bit. I don't really know, I don't have a clue, because I'm doing it live, so it's really whenever I finish, but obviously I'll stop after a reasonable time. I'm not going to be going on here for hours, but I'll get to the point where I'm happy with it to that point. To a certain extent. Now, so what I'm going to do is first I look at the picture, and the first thing I look at is to see the angles. I do not go into any details. I literally will just work out what position the face is in. I'm not even going to draw even a proper head. So the first thing I'm going to look at is where are the eye lines, because she's got a little tilt on the head, and I want to get that in first. So I may go in front of this a little bit now and again, just to make sure I'm not doing it wobbly all over the place, because sometimes if you do it from the side, you really don't know what you're doing. So don't mind me if I do this a little bit. So I'll come back every now and again. So just literally, this is, and everything, nothing is set in stone. So this is almost like a cross, where I'm just getting the eye, and this is, I can move this around. I do it very light. I hold my brush very light. That's the other thing. Hold your brush very light. Don't hold it tight, hold it far back. Always hold your brush really far back. If you hold it tight, it's much more stressful on your hand. You get much more tired. You'll also do a much heavier line, and you really want to do it very light, especially at this stage. So we're going to just go really light now here. I'm just going to really work it out. This is sort of where the eyes. This is how. I'm just kind of trying to work it out. This is all going to be changes. So you can work away and come back and come forward and back at different times. So the neck, and I'm not going to do much detail on our clothes, but I'm just making sure. I just have to talk to myself a little bit too when I do this. So don't mind me. Don't mind me if I talk to myself. You can imagine now. So I'm literally using a fairly neutral color here. Just using a bit of white and a little bit of yellow ochre, which is sort of a mustard shade. And it's just literally to mark in my rough guidelines as to where I'm going with the picture. So, okay, oops, a bit of red went into it there, but it doesn't really matter. Okay, a bit of yellow. Okay, now let's have a look. Sometimes I squint my eyes too. I find that a really handy thing. I know that might sound, I often say that to my class, squint your eyes. And they'd be saying, what do you squint your eyes? Because it's like standing back and looking at something. You see the whole rather than seeing a detail. And you can actually, it's weird. I don't know why it works like that, but it does. None of this is, as I say, is set in stone yet. And then I just work out where. I say I'll be going quiet at times where I'm just concentrating on what I'm at. Now I'm putting in some dark, just sort of patching in some dark areas that I see. But again, as you can see, it's really light at the moment. I'm trying to figure out which are the best, where are the main lines, as it were. And again, these are all movable. As I say, it's all a movable feast. Nothing is over till it's over. And that's why I don't get too caught up. I'm going to have to move this a tiny bit in this direction. I know this might be a bit hard. You'll see it actually coming up as you get, as the colour goes on. It's probably quite faint at the moment, which it is faint anyway. But I'm just going to move just because I don't want to do it sideways and then have her all sideways and then realising that's just because I haven't been working to the side. So I have to be careful where I'm. So I just bit by bit. And I see all of these are actually, look at this. And I can work into the darker shades, like a bit of the browns. I have a bit of raw burnt umber here as well. So I'm just, sometimes I look at the negative spaces. The negative spaces are the places you're not actually drawing, like you're not drawing the nose, you're drawing the shape, maybe the shape of the shadow rather than the shape that's formed by the nose. And if you can look at, if you look back, as I say, if you can refer back to the actual picture on the page, it'd be good every now and again, just to so you know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I'm not in a position to be able to swing another camera view or anything like that. I'm fairly basic technology here. Actually, just lucky to get the internet going because it's been very dodgy the last few days. So I've been, even though we're meant to have fibre optic, but it must be because everybody's working on it or something. Everybody's online. Some of it's not been great. Evening time is a disaster at times. Just darkening in a little. I'd say you'll probably find yourself going off and get yourself a cup of tea and come back and tune in every now and again, because sometimes I'll just go ahead and I'll be working away to myself here, then I'll come back and so I'm darkening little bits at a time, just trying to get the overall. I'll say none of these lines are definite. See, it's kind of tentative, kind of just little tentative little movements here every now and again. Just gradually working out what I'm at. And look at the shapes that's formed by different. If you notice, I'm still squinting. I know I find it when I squint. I'll probably have a permanent squint soon. I'm squinting at things, but so I hope everybody is. If you have any questions, please ask me. I don't. Sometimes I say I can see them. Sometimes I can't. It's kind of strange. I don't. I notice at the kids' classes sometimes people have put in suggestions and everything, and I only see them. I only see them after the class. Some of them I see them straight on up as they come up. But I can only scroll down so far for some reason. I might be able to do something wrong. I don't know. I'm relatively new to all this live streaming, to be honest. So only since all this started. Normally today is a Monday, so I would normally be in after I have a Virginia class that I was meant to be starting, and I hope how maybe a few of them might be tuning in. And I was starting on them, and of course I would have been there, and I would have been having a class here on a Monday evening. But unfortunately, the way things are, and for the foreseeable future, that won't be possible. But so long as everybody's all right, that's the main thing, really. I'm just getting in sort of directional lines here that I'm seeing in her face before I do any. Again, as I say, it's all very, very rough now. I'm just going to put that across longer. This is longer there. And see, this is where it's great because it just builds it up bit by bit. So nothing is set in stone here, nothing at all. It's like all totally. I'm going to look at that shape here. There's a shape on her. It's between her nose and her mouth area. And it's like, I'm looking at the shape between the nose and mouth, not the actual, sort of this sort of a shape. That's great reference, and is that and that. So at the moment it doesn't look like anything. It looks really weird, and that's fine. Just gonna come in here, it is. Let's have a look down here. So I hope you are all, as I say, keeping busy doing things. If it's not an easy time. It's life is never going to be the same, I think, for a good while. But so long as it gets back, as say, normal into some kind of normality, it'll be great. And we're all okay. But that's the main thing. But still, it is hard. Hello, Keely. How are you? As I say, I don't see everything coming up, so many a time I don't see it till the end. So it's hard for me to see who's there and who's not there, and if you're asking anything or not. But if I see anything coming up, I will answer. Now I'm just looking at the space. Look at the space. It's roughly about an eye width between the eyes. Usually there's certain standards, like usually nose is about halfway to the chin. And again, that's kind of, I always sort of give these are all kind of the standard, what would you call it, proportions. The face like half between the eyes, the nose, sorry, between the eyes, nose is halfway between the eyes and the chin, and then halfway again for the mouth. But again, these are all very, very, they're like the rules that are meant to be broken, and that's how you know when you look at somebody, that the features are otherwise don't fit exactly as they should, as it were. Well, there's no saying as it should, but you know what I mean, because otherwise what will happen is we'd all look exactly the same, and that'd be so boring. If everybody followed the rules exactly, we'd have anybody would be look different. We wouldn't know who was who. It would be so boring. But thankfully we are all different. But the thing is, it's like you learn the rules and then you break the rules, as all of that makes sense. Or because the human body doesn't always, nature has its own mind at the end of the day. So I'm just gonna. Here, there's a line here, and there. I just stand in front of this a little bit because I can't really see where I'm going with this. Bring this line a bit over here. Just move it a tiny bit to me. Can you see there? Yeah. It's just I have to move it. If I don't move it, yeah, that's better. Because I'm doing it too sideways, and it's throwing me off then, because I'm getting, what's happening is I don't see the chin in the right position. And I should know that by now, because I've, as I say, I've many a time got up in front of a class and said, draw a circle, and I've drawn a circle, and then wonder why everybody's drawing ovals, because I've been doing it from the side, and I've drawn an oval on the page without realising it. So I should know I should have learned my lesson by long ago by now, but I still do it. I still don't do it. I still do the inevitable oval or the inevitable standing at the side routine, without copying on that you can't draw from the side of something. You have to be in front to actually make it, to do it right. Just bring in a little bit of that. Just bring in a little bit. So the colours I'm using at the moment are mainly a little bit of cadmium red, a little bit of white, a little bit of yellow ochre. They're the main colours I'm just using at the moment. A little bit of the darker burnt umber at the moment as well. That's what I'm using. So I'm using she's got quite a high forehead here in this, actually. Forehead is 1. Just measuring it down. Sometimes you can use your sure you've seen the brush or pencil or whatever it is you're using, and you can just look at it's just really to gauge the distances. It's not so much the distances, but to gauge comparison. So if you measure one area of your picture by holding, say if you're looking at the forehead, if you're looking at a drawing, I'm looking at another laptop, as I say. Hello Rosemary, how are you? And I just measuring it down and see how much further down the face, so I can see from the forehead to the top of, to just the bottom of her eyebrow is the same as the bottom of the eyebrow is the top of the mouth. So this here to here is the same. So her top of her forehead is coming somewhere up there, actually. Sometimes it's very hard to just turn that off. So I have to look over to my other laptop every now and again. So if I dip in and out, you'll know I'm just dipping in and out of the picture. So that's or dipping in and out of concentration here. So I just want to keep my mind on the picture as well, because you can actually get caught up in talking too much, and then you literally drift off and you lose track of where you are in your picture too. So it's kind of like, I'm just going to let the hair can go up here, and the hair goes. I'm not even doing the hair too much at all. That's just literally just marking it in. And this is this part here. So you can probably go off, make a cup of tea, come back, dip in and out, see how it's going, how it's progressed. Because unless you want to join in, of course, and do it, but it's I'm not doing it in terms of like a lesson where I say now do this, now do that, now do the other. It's more like a demonstration to see showing how I approach it. Because sometimes I know when you watch artists sometimes doing it, it's quite nice to actually watch somebody doing it rather than to be told, well, now you're going to do this and now you're going to do that. Because when you're doing it like that, it's much more of a summary you're doing. You're kind of sort of saying, well, okay, now this is how I do it. And sometimes you have to actually stop and think, how do I do it? Because a lot of the times it's kind of, you do it automatically. You know, it's kind of I suppose, organic, I suppose you'd call it, way of doing things. It sort of grows. So it's sometimes nice to be, and that's when I'm doing a class, I have to stop and sort of say, okay, well, how did I approach this? But then it's nice to sometimes just draw and to actually just paint. And sometimes then if you can actually just see what I'm doing, rather than and let me see, I'm adding a little bit of, what I'll do along the way is I'll add explain little bits like the fact that what I'm doing regarding colours and that. So the palette at the moment I'm just using is a bit of cadmium red, cadmium yellow, white, yellow ochre, there's a little bit of burnt sienna, a bit of ultramarine as well, and they're the colours I'm using at the moment. And I'm going to just bring That's right there. It's much higher out here. So this part here is probably nearly an eye width there. To bring that eye down a bit. It's funny, when you get to a certain stage, you start to see where you have to change things too, which is really good. Let me see. This eye. A bit too much, too dry the brush. I use a dry brush, fairly dry. Hello Claire, hello Kevin, how are you? I use a fairly dry brush because I don't want it too, like this, that's a bit too wet there. This is me asking to use a dry brush. And of course I just had to, because it was gone a bit too dry there, I had to just put a bit of water on it, but a bit too much water on it at the same time. So we're just going to go around here like this. So it's a real build up gradual. And I noticed it's interesting, she's one expressive eye and one what I call a dead eye. That's funny, my mum had exactly the same eye and all. And there's one eye, you can see her right eye, left as you look at it, is really animated and has a sparkle in it and twinkle. And the other eye is just staring. It's kind of like, it's not the leading eye. This eye here is the sort of the dead eye content. My mom had exactly the same eye and all. I have pictures of her, and every picture, she's little, one eye is really sparkling, the other eye is just staring. It's funny. I think we all have that to a certain extent. It's one eye just leads the way, and it's is stronger. I suppose it's your stronger eye. Probably my left eye, I imagine. I don't know, because my right eye is not as good as my left eye. Don't mind you, both of them are getting a bit dodgy now at this stage. Sometimes I do. Maybe that's why I squint, because I need glasses. I do have glasses. Don't always only wear them now and again. I'm doing close-up work. I'm just going to get a general sort of shade. Now, I'm just on her hair. I'm just literally going to get a bit of white with a little bit of the blue and my brown here, which is, actually I might put more brown out. A little bit of burnt sienna here. No, sorry, burnt umber, I mean. A bit of burnt sienna as well. Burnt umber is quite a deep brown. It's kind of rich brown. Yeah, it's burnt umber. Just make sure I had burnt umber. Because there's raw umber as well, which is a much deader sort of a shade. It's not as rich a colour. So I'm just going to get a general sort of a grey shade on her hair for now, and we'll come back and do her hair afterwards. But I'm just getting a shade on it. I mean, I would just kind of give it a bit more white maybe, just for now. I'm just kind of giving that twirl in it, just so I can know what's up here on her head, if you get me. It's a lovely day today here, so it is really nice. Yesterday was absolutely miserable. It was like going back into winter again, but thankfully now it's lovely to see the sunshine, even if we can't go too far out. Well, thankfully we're actually quite lucky where we are, I have to admit. Even though I look across at my hills across the way, because this place is called Cairn Hill Art, and the reason it's called Cairn Hill Art is because I'm looking across at the ancient cairns on top of Lough Hill, from my kitchen, and indeed from my cabin, well, nearly from my cabin, from my house, which is this beside my house. I'm just putting a bit of light down the side here, the face, and that's where I get my the name of here from. And I love to go up there for walks, but unfortunately it's just outside my 2 kilometre range. It's about 5 kilometres, so it's out of bounds at the moment, but I can still admire, especially in the evening time, the sun sets and it's gorgeous. Gradually building and putting a little bit of pinky shade in, but a little bit of pinky shade. I use it for a bit of skin colour. Basic skin colour I usually use is a bit of cadmium red. It's not, my brain is not working. White and a little bit of cadmium yellow, or so this is actually, sorry, this is not actually cadmium yellow, it's process yellow. And it's only because my colours are going a little bit low, and unfortunately it's not that easy to get them online. So I'm just kind of gradually just adding bits of working on the shadowy bits here, or the pinky bit, the slight half-tone shadows, as I say. And this is just literally building it out bit by bit. As I say, hopefully you'll be able to come in and out of this. You can, because you'll probably not sit down unless you're really, well, you never know. Maybe some as well. You're fed up with watching, oh my God, watching Netflix after a while and that. But it is a lovely day to be out in the garden. You're doing a bit. It's actually really lovely warm sun today here in Ireland, that is. And of course I don't know where everybody's coming from. The day we had people from Isle of Man looking in at the children's one. So I'm sure the weather in Ireland Man wasn't too much different from here, mind you. Now I'm just filling in little bits. These little lines here that I had down were kind of some of the wrinkle lines on her face, little crease lines, expression lines. So I'm just going to gradually bring these, as I say, I'm building it up bit by bit. What I might do now, actually, in a minute, is I might put a little bit of background colour on it, a little colour now. I'm really just, it's really vague here. So I'm just putting the bits, I'm just picking more white. I really hardly mix, if you see, I just literally just, it's very casual how I do it. It's quite nice light white bits. You can see the really white bits. Sometimes it's just as good to get in the white little light bits because you can really get that, pick up the, where, I might put some more. She's got real deep eyelids, you know. And you can really see the under eye part as well, the inner eyelid kind of on the bottom, like that. You can really see that, it kind of gives it that, she's got that real, this part here is the real. Just got a line across there. You can see I'm gradually building it up. I'm not concentrating on any particular part of the face at the moment. I'm really working around different areas to try and sort of building it up bit by bit. And I change things as well, as you notice. Not everything is set in stone. I don't kind of panic if I think, oh my God, that's not right, or it doesn't bother me. I just bring it out a bit more, or take it down, or whatever has to be done. And I'm going to just bring that eye is actually much more to the side. I'll use a smaller brush in a minute, but I'll use this for now. Sometimes I do get very lazy when I make it, and I end up with the same brush. I'm wondering how come I'm finding it so hard, because I haven't actually bothered to take the brush out of my hand, and I should realise I'm trying to do with the paint with the paintbrush. So actually, at this stage, I'm actually just going to put a bit of background colour, and I'm going to use a bigger brush this time. So the reason I'm going to put a bit of background colour is just it helps to concentrate. It helps to bring out the face a bit more. You'll actually, you'll see where you're at a bit more. So I'm going to just come back and get some darker colours here. I'm going to put a dark background, and I say we'll come back to the face in a minute. And I'm just going to use different shades here. I'm going to use different. I'm using a bit of mauve in it, a bit of raw sienna, and just kind of a dark. I'm going to make sure I've room for her ear. She has to have an ear here somewhere. Forgetting her ear. And the thing is, if I have to come back out with her face afterwards, that is absolutely fine. I can still do that, because the great thing about acrylics, that's what I'm using, is acrylics. Acrylics come in all kind of shapes and sizes. I'm using anything from, let me see, what am I using here today? I'm using anything from the, where's that one? I had a nice one, the tube of the professional white. There's one of the professional white. I can't even find it now because I've only got one of them. But mostly I'm using these. Oh, there it is. That's the professional. That'd be the best pigment kind of one. But I've only got one tube of that. And I'm using some of the System 3 ones, and they're all Dale. That's the Dale and Rowney version, and the sort of equivalent would be the Winsor and Newton Galleria ones. And they're kind of standard kind of tubes of paints. I've also got some cheap ones here, which are sort of Icon, which are just, they wouldn't be strong a pigment, but I often use them. I mean, they're fine. And it depends on what you're doing, really. I do go for whatever. Sometimes it depends if I'm stuck for a colour and I just see it in a shop and I don't, I say, oh, that's a nice colour. I just pick it up. And, okay, if you want really strong pigment, you're better off going for the the more expensive ones, I suppose. Really, I suppose you'd say. Paint, but you can do quite a good painting with just the cheaper ones too. Maybe they're probably not as economical in the end because you probably do use up a lot more paint. So I'm just going to put in the dark background here. Just getting it. I've got tape on the side there. I'll just go over the tape with the tape. That's just. Actually, I'm painting on it's canvas sheet. Actually, this a primed canvas sheet. It's not actually a canvas or a board. It's just a sheet. I've just taped it onto a background, so that's why it's. You can see a difference there. You'll see it a bit smudgy at the side. It's tape. And I might even add a bit of the white you've been finding. Please. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let's see which way I'm working on this. Yeah. Now I'm going to come back. I'm just going to put a shadow, a colour on her thing here for now. And then we'll come back to the other in a minute. Just going to put a dark shade on this too. And then we'll come back to her face again. Just want to work on, just get a dark shade. Just kind of get an overall colour on the canvas. I kind of like to have an overall shade. I want to get a bit more brown out. It's kind of handy to just see because you kind of you're not seeing big areas of white canvas. I don't like to have big areas of white canvas when I'm painting. We can work on our clothes after. She's got lots of little sequins or what's the word? There's another word for it. I think. I can't remember what the name of the stuff is. It's like little sparkly bits anyway. But we can put them in after. It's very roughly. And then we come back to our face. I'm just going to work this down here, just get an overall colour. For now, I'm not going to be too fussy at all. Actually, might bring a little bit of white into it. I just mix it on the actual canvas. Don't bother with it on the. So I hope there's anybody been painting. If anybody has any questions to ask, please do as I go along. Oh, my thing went off there. My other laptop is. I have another laptop here that I'm referring to. So just to so the live stream, I have to use my daughter's laptop for this, for the actual live stream, because my one is acting up and just refuses to talk to the software thing that needs for the live stream. And yeah, so I have to do a little negotiation as to what time suits her too. So she needs her laptop. But anyway, it'll work out. Just get enough colour here. A bit more blue in that. I'll come back to this in a minute. I'm just going to for a while, just going to get an overall shade so we have an overall background now. I'm just literally bringing the strokes fairly, some downward sort of strokes now for now. I'm not even putting any detail around it. Now we're going to go back to herself, Madame herself, and we're going to start bringing in the. Actually, it's handy I can look back here on this too because I can see it at a different angle here. Okay, where am I going? I'll just put this one aside for a minute and I'll come back to this. So I'm going to build up a little bit around her farm. I'm still just going to be literally working around the clock, as it were. I'm not going to concentrate in any particular area at the moment because I'm still in the process of establishing really where everything is really. So I'm going to mix. Sometimes I mix a really dark shade. I'm going to put a bit of my burnt sienna and I'm going to add a bit of. I should have washed my brush properly. I was maybe being a bit lazy. Sometimes I get like that too. So a little bit of burnt sienna and a bit of ultramarine, and I'm just going to work in here. I'm just going to watch. She's got quite narrow, so I'm just going to get a little bit of there. I just want to work this line here. There's that bit there. Just kind of, I'm establishing these little flicky little shadow bits around her eyes. And the colours I'm using, they're basically the, at the moment, ultramarine, there's burnt umber, there's yellow ochre, there's yellow, cadmium yellow, or this is a process yellow actually, burnt sienna, a little bit of cadmium red, and white, of course. Use a lot of white in acrylics or in painting. Often when you're, I always advise if you're going to buy paints, always get an extra bit of white, because you do use a good lot of it. I find anyway, I do. More so than, it depends. If you're doing oils, it's the same. I'd find. I'd use a good bit of the acrylics, or sorry, the oils. I mean, white even. Get there eventually with the word. So. Getting these colours in. I'm going to add a bit of the deep. Actually, I might add a little bit of a alizarin crimson. Alizarin crimson is quite a crimsony kind of shade, but sometimes it's great in the shadows. It's, you know what, it's great for doing, if you're doing something like sunsets or skies. It's a lovely colour. It's a really nice colour. But it's good in the shadowed areas too. Brown in there as well. So. Bit of the just got this bit here, this bit here. Maybe bring that down a little bit. So I put a little bit of white into my sort of burnt sienna kind of reddishy shade here, just to kind of give it, and there's probably a little bit of, that's actually where there's a little bit of the ultramarine in there as well. Sometimes I don't really even do a real big mix. I kind of try and find something that's, sometimes it's very hard to actually to know what colour you've just been using actually, and which is not always a good idea, but so let's try and go mix it again. Look back and go. But I have my palette there, so I kind of, it's more or less one or other of these as I go along. So as I say, you can head off, make yourself a cup of tea, come back, see how I'm getting on, and yeah, and say hopefully it'll encourage you to pick up a brush and just do a little bit, you know, because you can see how you can change things as you go along. All the time I'm changing, I'm moving things along. I'm not, it's nothing, as I say, is set in stone until I decide it is, if you know what I mean. And even then, often when I finish a picture, then I'll say bring it into the house or whatever, and I'll put it, and I know quite a few of my art classes do the same. They often say the same thing. They bring it home and they'll keep it in a room where they pass and by every now and again and look at it. I'm just going to use a slightly smaller brush here. And every time you look at it, you see, it's just, you know, something will suddenly stand out and you say, oh my God, look at that. How the heck did I miss that when I was doing it? You know, so it's always good to stand back. That's why it's really good to go off and have a break. That's also why I want to stop after an hour and a half or so, or just after, because for the simple reason that you need the break. And what happens then is you get to the stage where you can't see the wood for the trees after a while. I have a picture one of my favourite pictures I have is of a tree, big tree, and I remember the day I was doing it, I literally got so tired of it, I walked out of the room and said, that's it, I'm going to just paint over the whole thing. And I walked back in, I said, oh, okay, that actually is working. And I suddenly could see, which I couldn't see before, because I was so caught up in the whole thing. Just so go off, take a break, come back, and you'll see straight off something that's glaringly obvious that you couldn't see about 10 minutes beforehand. So it's a great way. You need a break in your eyes, so you need to train your or not train your eyes, get your eyes away from the subject sometimes. She's a funny little twist on her nose that she has actually. Just looking at that. Not that you'd never noticed it about her or noticed it before. But she does. A little twist on the nose. Yeah, so really take a break. One of the main things I say, don't give up. Never give up with art, because there's always, you'll always, you know, sometimes, as I say, the pictures that you think are the worst ones turn out to be your best ones. You just persist. But then the other thing is not to overdo things. That's the other thing, is to try and know. So say if you're doing a portrait, for example, or such, so just do a little dark shadows in here, is to not overdo it. When you get a likeness and you're happy with the likeness, don't think, oh God, I have to keep working on that eye, because I've done it before. I've done it many a time. Being so insistent, I have to keep going, and then all of a sudden I look and think, oh my God, I don't know who the hell that's meant to be now. Like, it looks great, the eye looks great, or the mouth looks great, but it doesn't look like whoever it's meant to be anymore, because I've just mucked it all up. And of course, again, you can fix it at the end, but it's a little bit annoying. So less is more. I often say in art, less is more. I was a great fan of the Impressionists, I have to admit, because the people like Monet and that are one of my favourites. I was so lucky last year to be able to go with my family and visit I hope Frank's not listening to me now. My pronunciation won't be right. Le Vergini, is it? Giverny in France, and it was just amazing. Oh my God, you could just see. No wonder the man was sort of so into painting the garden, the flowers, and the bridge. It was just, and you know what was so lovely was there was so many people there, which is something that can't happen right now. And they literally was every nationality under the sun. Literally everything. I'd say every nationality, every shape, colour, size, probably faith, religion, non-religion, and everybody was just absolutely lapping the beauty of it up, and really was real polite, just being real, because it was so crowded, but people were just really decent with each other, kind of, because everybody wanted to get a picture or something, and they're just a really nice atmosphere. And it was like as if it was his love of the whole thing could see coming through. And if anybody ever gets a chance to go there, I would highly recommend it. Now, it was jammed, absolutely jammed, but jammed, and didn't take away from it. And his house, even just go into the rooms and you could see where he painted, and yeah. But admit, big fan of the old French Impressionists, but then I like France anyway. So to admit. There's some great places there, and yeah, I think about the Impressionists is they really broke away from the whole idea that they weren't really recognised at the beginning. They kind of had to fight for their place in Paris to be even recognised in the beginning, because they I'm using about half shades at the moment here. Sort of again, same kind of palette. You can see I'm messing around here with all these colours. You can see there's blues and burnt siennas and reds, and yeah, so just literally mess almost. I can go from one to the other, and I know you might say, well, how? So I'm putting a bits of the red in here now, little bits of the blue. There's a little bit slightly mauvey shades, really, I suppose you'd say. Just going to concentrate a bit on this bit now, because I'm losing track of my me laughter lines here. Just got one there. One has come down here. So yeah, the Impressionists, they had to really fight their way to be recognised in the day, and then it's amazing how so many people loved their work, because they did what they did. They caused the impression of what was around them. I suppose they were influenced a lot by photography too, because photography was caught a moment in time, and I suppose the Impressionists were trying to do that too. They caught a fleeting glimpse into the lives of people. They put people in the picture, so it was all very nice. And so just taking a bit more ultramarine, putting it in, just a bit more by brown and my blue. My shadow colours, I use brown and blue a lot for shading colours. Ultramarine and a bit of burnt umber, which is good. You could use Van Dyke brown, is a very dark brown, but you could use it too. Depends again how dark you want your shadow. Yeah, so I must say I'm a big fan of theirs, very big fan. And it was more about capturing the essence, as it were, rather than the religiously doing it perfect. I'm going to move away from there for a minute. I'm not going to, because I don't want to get caught up in one area. It's very easy to do that. I still do sometimes. I get totally caught up in there, like, oh, move away. Don't be tempted to keep going, because then it looks really weird against the rest of the face, and it just doesn't look right. And so I'm just going to mix up a little bit of a skin colour. A basic skin colour is a kind of a red, cadmium red, a bit of yellow and a bit of white. And you can kind of jiggle them around to get the colours. You can get flesh colours in tubes, but I've never got a flesh colour before that's even remotely like flesh. It even looks like you've got a really weird tan or a really bad sunburn. So, but at least this one you can change it around easier and see what you want to do. So I'm just going to put a bit more white on that. Now I want to watch this line here because this area, actually I'm going to put a bit of white in under here. Because I want to just watching this shape that's around here. This I've kind of come in with it, and I should have. This should come around more like this, and there should be that dark bit that goes up here, up the side of her nose. Actually, just disappears up that way. Doesn't really go down. It's quite close to that. Whispering to myself. By the way, I do that normally too when I'm painting. I do whisper away to me. I do talk to myself. Yes, indeed. A bit strange. I'm a bit too dry. Just on the brush. So I'm mixing just a little darker shade here out of my palette of colours here. I'm just yes, indeed. So I don't know if I know I'm missing my art classes at the moment because I used to be in Virginia on a Monday. Oops, gone off, and that was a lovely class. I hope some of the gang might be on board here, or if not, hello Valerie, how are you? If not, they hopefully might get a chance to look at it on YouTube. I know some of them might be on Facebook, and I know some of them might be. Just going to shove up her eye a little bit more. As I say, this is the great thing about it. It's nothing is set in stone. Just and there I go, putting a line across my hand. And again, hold your brush really high up. You see, notice I hold my brush very high up, not down low, because you actually have more control. You kind of think you have more control when you hold like that, but you don't. It makes your hand much more inclined to shake because you're much more tense. And when you're tense, as you know, you will automatically start to shake. The more tension, because you get uptight about it. So therefore you will actually, it will shake much more than if you're further back. So what are the colours here? The colours I say I'm using are, for anybody who's joined in, it's white, bit of red, cadmium red, a little bit of alizarin crimson, which is a crimsony red too. I have that in times as well. Bit of yellow, say something like not Naples yellow. You could have a bit of Naples yellow in places actually. A little bit of, what's the colour I'm using? I'm using process yellow, but a bit of cadmium yellow is good. And a bit of ultramarine, burnt sienna, and burnt umber. So a little bit of selection of colours there. A bit of red there. Too red, but that's okay. Stop it down with this. It's lovely to have a sunny day though. It's nice, much more cheerful. Yesterday was fairly bad where we were anyway. I think anyone around here was, you couldn't really do too much. It was like going back into the middle of winter. I'm going to darken that eye down a bit. I'm not going to go into too much detail on it now. I'm just going to, oh, that's way too brown. Way too brown. We've got a bit of blue in that as well. We'll put a bit more light on, but do a bit more on that later on. I'll go back to my, oh, that's this one. I'll just put a bit more light under here. Too much came out of the other thing at the same time. So a little more here. Just going to work back in the whitish area here. She's quite a light part here. This part I want to check this, so I'll bring that a bit higher up. Oops, a bit more. Start filling in our forehead a bit more with this sort of skinish colour here. Nice white bit down in the middle. You can hear that noise there. There's Freddie in the background, our dog, barking down the road. I don't know if you'd hear that on the live stream. So as I say, you can come forwards or backwards and look in and out. And remember, this will be on Facebook afterwards, so you'll be able to see it later on. If you want to tune into it later on and go backwards and forwards on it, or whatever way you want to go. I also have, we're going to put it up on YouTube as well. So if you know anyone who doesn't have Facebook, they can go onto YouTube and have a look at it afterwards either. And again, so if you have any questions, please ask me. I'd be willing to, quite happy to if I'm able to help, I will. I'm just going to get a smaller brush here, just rolling through my brush and see what I have here. Nice little one there. Just want to get some of the lines around her eyes. I'm not finished. I'm not going to go into, I'm still not doing the eyes, they're definite. Just I'm using a bit of the dark brown blue for my shadow colour, for my line colour, which is a bit of ultramarine and a bit of burnt sienna. It's very dark shadow around her eye, actually. It's very, very dark. And this is the dead eye. I call it the dead eye. This is the eye where she doesn't, this is the eye she doesn't use to focus on, because you can see there's a sort of a lack of expression in it. The other eye, it's a really, real twinkle in the eye. And as I said, it's something we all have. We have a dominant eye. And it's the one that has that gives the expression mostly to our faces. So just add, I'm just using the same shades of colour here. Oh, a bit of yellow went in there. That was not meant to happen. And that is grand. Just put a bit of this over it and spread it in. That's the great thing about, I say about paint, about the acrylic is very forgiving in a sense too, because you can go backwards and forwards on top of it. I mean, oil is probably the best one, I think, to do to paint portraits with, personally. It just doesn't dry so fast, and this is just handier for, because oils you can mess around with forever. This kind of dries really fast. I mean, like that's, look, it's not even, that's not coming off my hand at all, look. Well, vaguely, it's just literally a shadow of it. But if you had that in oil, it's like it'd be wet for the next few days. So it's a very different medium. But having said that, it's quite the effects can be similar. At the end of the day, I would look back at some of the pictures I've done in both, and I actually wouldn't know offhand which I had done them in, if you know what I mean, whether I'd done them in oils or acrylics. Unless often by the date, or I just happened to remember, oh, I remember doing that one in oil or acrylic. They can give the very similar results. Go back to a slightly bigger one now. They can give very similar results, so they can. Just have that in the water there, which is not great because it's a bit too white. I suppose the one that's so much different than anything else really is the watercolours. The watercolour is a very different medium, because you have to think, unlike with the acrylics and the oils, you can work backwards and forwards from dark to light and light to dark. When you're doing acrylics, when you're doing watercolours, you can't obviously put the light colours on top of the dark colours, so you have to think before you sort of do it. You work your lighter colours first and work into your darker colours. And I'm actually more inclined to go the opposite direction, is a general rule, when I'm doing acrylics or oils, because I'm inclined to think in terms of the shadow underneath and then the light on top. Well, I generally go backwards and forwards from one to the other, but certainly I do acrylics. I will always work from the from the watercolors. I always have to work from the light to dark, because it just won't go over it really. That's the issue. It's the blue here. Light a little bit down here. Ew. More red in that. I don't know if you hear the birds on that live stream. So you can hear the birds out in the garden. They're absolutely gorgeous to listen to them. So nice. It's really cheerful. It's what you need. Just a bit of that off. I'm going to clean my brush because I've just got too much rubbish on it at this stage. I'm going to take off this one out of my hand because I'm two brushes in my hand. I've often gone around 3 brushes in my hand and I don't even realise it. And I do wonder why it's so hard to be manoeuvring around the place and realise I've still got the brush in my hand. I haven't even taken it out of my hand. Okay, so I'm going to just this area here. I hope some of you will find that you'll feel a bit motivated to try and paint a bit, because I tell you, it's very relaxing. And don't panic if you don't kind of think, oh, get it right first time and all of that. The one thing I'd say, like, if you think about it, in the scheme of things that are happening right now, painting, it should be something that's enjoyable. It should be something to take your mind off things and not get too uptight and panic, because really, as I always say to the classes, it's not brain surgery. You can make as many mistakes as you want and no one is going to really mind. It's not the end of the world. And that's so important to remember. To me it is anyway. Art should be something that's enjoyable and fun, and it should be a way to just express yourself, obviously, but also to just feel that you can just tune out and just relax. Hi Lena, how are you? So we can just literally just relax, just enjoy painting, enjoy it. Don't think in terms of I must get this exactly perfect, because as I say, at the end of the day, the way things are, painting is not on the level of something that what they're doing out in the hospitals and that. So this should be somewhere to just tune out, relax, get it right. You know, if you don't get it right, just come back and fix it. But do it in your own time. Don't, you know, all. It's all learning. It's everything about painting. Is each mistake you make is actually the process. If you know that makes sense. So every mistake you make in a picture, it actually gets you near to the finished product. So it's not like as if you know that's it. Oh God, I've made a mess of that. No, you're just learning as you go along. You're realizing, because as I work through any painting, I make loads of sort of mistakes, or it's not even mistakes. I jiggle it around because I don't get it right first time. You don't put a line on the page and say, okay, that's it now. I don't think there's any artist in history that has. If you go into the great masters, they all went through this of just. Some of them would have had a lot of angst over that, and I have to admit, I'm probably not in that regard, that brand of artist, because I realise it's something I enjoy. I don't want to make it into something that I dread. I want to enjoy it. I want to feel that it's something where I can just tune out. And so many people who are in the classes say that to me. They just, the time flies in the class. Literally, it just flies. Because we're just, I'm just putting a bit of the light here. Because you just go into your own little world, and it's great. But in a nice way, because you just forget everything that's going on outside. You just tune out. I have to keep reminding myself that some people are here watching this, even though I know I'm talking out loud. So obviously I know, but it's still strange. Strange not to be having my class. I do have to admit that. Because I would normally, I'm just going to put some white out here. Where is the white that I had? That's this one. Oh. Just trying to get out the tube now is another question. The lid came off this one, so it's not great. Even though it's a nice white, so I'm going to stick there. Sometimes that happens, you lose the lids, which isn't great when you lose the lids because the paint goes hard. That's still quite a good lot. It's a nice white, so I don't want this one to go away on me. Sorry about this, just squeeze it out of here without exploding on me. May have to get out the other tube for now. I'll have to do a job on that one later on, see can I get it out. Now I'm just going to take this as I'm running out of my whites to go and order some more. Unfortunately, it's not that easy to get paints nowadays at the moment. Excuse the noise of this. Excuse me. This is just the paint, not me. God. That'll do it for now. I'll try it later on. I'll just take the lid off actually next time, because so I'm just going to do white along here. I'm just trying to establish the edge of the page, the picture here. So what was I saying? Yeah, so yeah, it's hard to get paints at the moment. Paint shops are obviously closed. The art shops, needless to say, because they're not exactly considered an essential service. But on the other hand, it may not be an essential service, but it's nice to be able to get supplies into. And unfortunately, the online one is not the one I normally get it from. Is not delivering either. But I'm sure I'll find a source if I really do run out. Or I'll have to be making paint out of God knows what. Going back to the basics and making dyes or something. I don't know. Let's see. God knows what will happen yet. Getting my plants in the garden and seeing what I can do with them. That's something I try. So that I'm not great on plants. I'm not very green fingered now. That's not my. They kind of look at me and they kind of die for some reason. I'm actually going to put tinted blue in that on the edge line. And I might work up to a bit of our hair now in a minute before we come back again, because I want to try and get more of a colour on the hair, because you can see there's whole areas of her face that are not. And often use your brush very, 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 very lightly. So you actually use the brush when you're holding the brush back. You can have much more control in terms of how light you use your brush too. It's just very light. There's a nice little. There's a dark bit and then there's a light bit. So there's a shadowy bit here. Yeah, let's shadow a little bit here. And so you can work away and come back, and it's quite a long process, but it's the kind of process you can dip in and out of, and you can fast forward it later on. I mean, I could do it and edit it down, but it's just as handy. And you know, in a way I want to do it like this because for the simple reason that it means you can really see the process as I go along. Because it's much more real. Often it's quite easy to get ones online that are edited. There's not as many live ones, obviously, and of course when you're doing it live, you have to literally go with the flow. If you edit it down, you can sort of just do the bits that made sense as you went along, so that you get all the bits that work nicely. But sometimes it's harder to do it this way. It is harder to do it this way, but I don't mind that because it's a challenge for me, obviously, but also I think it's good to show people how it really does work, and how you can come back from places, and how you can realize you can make mistakes, and you can just watch me sort of changing things and moving things around. And even if you don't say tune into the whole thing, which I imagine you probably won't tune it, all tune in one go, but now I'm looking at something here which is interesting. I'm just seeing something here which is just talking about changing things around. I'm just going to put her mouth a little longer because I'm just looking, her mouth actually comes over here more. And to watch that shape, watch the shape of the shadows is very important, rather than just watching the shape of what you're drawing. In other words, not just the shape of the nose, but watch the shape of the shadows around the nose. As I say, the negative space, the shape that you're not drawing, the shape of, say, the shadow, the shape of that, say, in between the cheek. Look at those shapes as much as you look at the actual shapes of the features, for example. It's a great way of checking to see if you've got your features right, even, or to see if things are making sense. And I see, look, that line is too up. Just looking at this now, the curve here is too. So I'm going to make that down. This on another one here. So I'll use a brush just to see what's under what. And it's a great way of seeing, what is where things align to on the face. If you just put the brush, so I can see the end of her lip, for example, bottom lip is just near the end of her eye, which is about right. And so if you have any questions or anything, please ask me, because if I see anything, hello June, how are you? If I can answer, I will. If I can't, I'll if I don't see them, I mean, oh, that's a bit of brown. Oh yeah, a bit more brown blue. If I see them later on, I'll answer them later on the comment section. I mightn't see them straight away here, or I might. It just depends. Sometimes I can, sometimes I can't, and I don't seem to be able to scroll down for some reason. Don't ask me why, but maybe I'm not doing it right, but I'm relatively new to all of this live streaming, so I am. Right, okay, I'm just looking at something here now, let me see. There's a darkness kind of, it's quite dark down here. No, I just want to try and get a bit more up on the eye now. Sort of a shadow on the eye. I know a lot of the classes are, I say they're missing their classes a lot now. A lot of the students that come to them, but hopefully, if we all sort of do what we have to do at the moment, which I say is not easy at all, but not easy on the younger people especially, I have to admit. They're not enjoying it at all in the sense that, but they're being really good, so they're being creative and doing things, so that's good. But it is hard. It's hard for me anyway, because I get lots of other jobs done around the house, which is always good too. Jobs I never get a chance to do normally, like clearing out a utility room. It was almost like a no-go area in the house, so that's always good. So when I'm not here doing this, I'm doing something else. So far I'm not bored anyway. And if that's all we can be is bored, that we're lucky, because there's a lot of people not doing or suffering so really, or indeed working in the front line. And that even includes shop workers, because I always think, like, you definitely don't have any gear in there, to protective gear, and you're also dealing with the public. Okay, not as up and close and personal as you would obviously, but still it's not easy, and totally, I think it's, you realise how important jobs are. Jobs you take for granted, people you can often take for granted. It's really, 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 really important, and hopefully people will appreciate so much after this. People do. And that's my speech for the day. There's Freddie barking outside. Just add a little bit of light around the eyes here. Using the same shades of colours here, mix the pink, the red, browns, white, a bit of blue, yellow ochre. A bit of my blue in my eye here. I don't know if it's somebody commenting. No, I can't see if noise or not. It's really hard to see anything at the moment, so I'll just see names. But hello everybody and welcome. Delighted you're joining me. As I say, I'll probably dip in and out but that's perfect, because that's the best way of doing it probably is just to dip in, come along, and you can play back then if there's any bits that you said, it's like, oh, how did you do that bit, or why did you do that, or blah blah blah, whatever it is that you have a question about. You can always come back and have a look and check and check it then afterwards and see. I want to get a bit of this. Oh dear, that went a bit too light, too dark. So I can't see if there's any questions coming in, unfortunately, at the moment, but I hear little dings now and again. It might have nothing to do with that, but I will catch it. This stage, I'm just going to put a little bit of light in the eye, even though I'm not actually finished with it totally, but there's very little light in that eye, and that actually is partly one of the reason why it looks so dead too, is that it's just sort of, there's a tiny bit of light in that eye, but very little. Just going to come back to that in a minute now. Go back with this line, is way too dark now. Oops. I take this, give that brush a good big cleaning, because sometimes you have to clean it more than other times, especially if you're going from sort of bluey shades. Sometimes they can be very, very strong, and they'll make everything look a bit dull. So just make sure every now and again you give your brush a good cleaning. I don't clean it religiously between each colour. Sometimes I don't hardly clean it at all. I just brush it, I just wipe off the paint. It really depends on what colour you're doing. One, two. Oops. To get off that colour here now for a minute. The eyebrow there. Now there's a light bit up here. The other thing is, say, what is really important if you're doing a picture and you're getting fed up is to go up and walk away and come back. It's really good, because it's really hard to see often what you're doing after a while, and it's really it's one of the best things to do. I think I was saying to you earlier on, and it really is important, because you can really just exactly, it's just like you say, you can't see the wood for the trees, and it's so easy just to kind of get bogged down in a painting and feel you're going nowhere, and then you just get up and walk around, come back, and it's like, oh my god. Or as I say, when you finish a picture, put it somewhere where you can see it, Not even constantly, maybe in another room that you might walk into and have a look at it every now and again and say, oh, I wonder now, and then you're like, I see what I have to do there. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have dawned on you maybe, but you know, when you're actually doing the picture, or indeed a picture that you don't like, you'll come in and say, oh, actually that works quite nice now. And I can see it then, or even actually it dries down often, then they dry back. Colours actually look better together than they do when you're just after putting them in, as it were. So I'm just marking these in for now. I'm just going to get my other brush, which I had there a minute ago. This one here, I think. Yeah, I'm using too small a brush there at the moment. And I'm going to just get a bit of colour on the face here. Just gonna. I want to get some more white. We'll take some more tube over to take this off the. Just. Ooh, I can take it off. Sometimes it gets some. Aha, here we go. Take a nice lump out of the lid. Get a nice bit in the lid. Now, like that. Okay, I'm just going to bring the pure white up here for a while. Darker shade across here. Just use a very dry brush effect as works, rather than use it. You don't put less often is more on a brush. Really, when you use it, don't use it too much paint at one time, because you can overload your brush, and also to make it too liquidy. It gives you much more scope when you've got a drier brush actually. Some half tone areas here. Bring this down a bit. So it was silent here I am for a while. That's because I'm just concentrating a bit here. So what time is it now? No, try best. I'm only been about 20 minutes. Just get to the stage. And there was a good lot talking at the beginning of the class, so that's a disadvantage. There's a lot of talking really. And I want to do that deliberately just to get you in to talk about how to approach it and that before I actually get into the actual work on it, because smudging it a bit here that's shadowed here. So a bit that comes down this side actually. off me there. The thing about live streams is they're quite good because they really do focus your mind very much. You know, so that's, I suppose, the advantages of it. Dark in there. And this little sort of creases down here. Just wash the old brush, too much paint coming on it now at one go, which is always another thing, because sometimes you just don't want to have to bother going away from the canvas sometimes, and sometimes you just have to say stop. I have to just get clean brush, or I just will end up just making a complete mug of it. Now I'm just going to get an eye and ear here. Bit of shadow in here. I'll bring this back up to, actually I'm just going to whip the, here it is here. Just sort of palette for a second here, because I've got some blue and the brown here for a minute. Bring this up. Just going to bring it up. I'm just going to take it up here for a second. Yes, I see one thing here. I'm bringing this too far up, so I'm going to bring this area. White, try and find the white on this. Where's my white tab? Here we go. Just go around and find highlighting areas as well. Some of the highlights are just as important as the shadow areas as well, so just get the highlights on them. The highlights kind of bring out the shape of parts of it. With the light, there's a white area, light area here. the shadowed area comes down a bit more here. I'm going very quiet now, and I'm just picking up these shadowed areas and contrast, get the light and the dark. Some of the areas are much darker than other areas. It's very hard to see it on the screen actually, because it's looking very different than in reality. It's very hard to judge how I'm seeing it and how you're seeing it on the screen, because I noticed that with the other class as well. It looks very different when you look in the screen, but I don't know. It's only when you see it finished, when you see it on a picture of it, you'll be able to see it properly. I suppose I find it really hard. So I don't know what way you see it. Is that's the difference. Doing this smaller brush here for a second. Let's look at the shape of the eye. Again, keep holding your brush really high, far back, because much more control that way than if you have it in than if you hold it too far down. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. I just want to go up in a minute. I just want to do a little bit on the side of the face. Up to the hair for a minute then. Just first of all, I just want to do a bit here. Much more white here. Like that, dark there. So you can just increase my colour here. Just going to put a bit more of the burnt sienna here for a second. And so you can watch any bits over afterwards if you want, on here or on YouTube, because I put up on YouTube even later on. I pop around bit to bit in the picture. It's weird. I just too dark, too light. I mean, that half tone here, just a bit of a half tone-ish. Back with a lighter one into it. You can work from dark to light and light to dark in acrylics. That's the great thing about it. You're not set in stone as to which version you do. I say like on watercolor, which you have to do. You have to really work one way or the other. What time is it now? 8:30 here. I get it. Another 15 minutes or so, and I will see how we go from there. I will just do a bit on the hair here now, so I'm going to get a bit of more of a brown, if I can get this brown again. On my white. A little bit of blue to it, so I'm going to make it. So I'm going to just give it a. Let's see how high we're going up with this. Bring the hair, just trying to go in the same direction of the. It's a lot about the stroke. You just keep it the direction of the hair, and we'll put the lighter bits in a minute. It's very hard to see it on the screen the way it's coming out. Wait till I actually do a bit more now. I will make like this here. And white. Gorgeous. I don't mind having an edge on this here. This is the edge of the tape here, across here. So that's. The edge of that go as well here. Really dark shade here. No, this thing's gone off again. Very tight up to our neck there. This comes. Now I should put this brush here, which I have, which is very handy for using like, it's kind of like a raked edge on it. So it's quite handy because you can use it for, it gives it that kind of a line streaks in it. So I'm just using a bit of white with a little bit of the browns and colours in it. So a bit of the browns and the blues, basically the colours I'm using on the hair. A little bit of raw sienna, which is like a very dark mustard colour. So like darker than it's like a yellow ochre colour, which is a French mustard colour, but it's darker again. It's much more it's much deeper kind of a shade actually. And it's like a sort of on the mustard lines, but deeper. If that makes sense. It depends. It varies again a lot from make to make. Some of the makes you get, it's like, in fact, all of the colours are quite different. Especially with colours of burnt sienna, you get really different shades. Some of the burnt siennas you get are really reddish brown. Some of them are very dark brown, and some of them are really light, almost a yellow ochre colour. So it's very hard to you really want to be careful when you're going to look at the tube colour. You want to nearly open the tube. Some of them I kind of got to know at this stage what kind of colours are inside certain makes of tubes, because you could really be misled sometimes. And these are really established makes. I'm not talking about cheaper makes. I'm talking about the makes like, say, Dale or Winsor & Newton. Some of them they're very different shades. Each of them have different versions of the same colour. Same as cadmium yellows are the same. They vary quite a lot from each make. And then I'm just going to go back into a bit here. No, there's this. Nope, wrong one. Back here for a minute. I don't want too much in that. I'm into a kind of time level here, so see how much I get done in the time allowed, as I, but till, and we'll work back on it, and I may work on it afterwards. Too small. It's hard to see what it looks like in Riya, and on the screen, as I say, it's very different looking than how I'm looking at it. So I'll be interested to see now when it's finished, because I find that with the other classes too, I find it hard to see what way you're seeing it, if you know what I mean, because sorry, there's a long brush again. I don't know, it's just the lighting, I think. I don't know whether it's really impossible to say. My white again. I'm just going to go for a dark colour here, just to get the outside line. So my dark colour here. Yeah, just a little size. Right again. Very dry brush at the moment. Eyes very heavy eye. Ooh, too dark. That's this shadow here goes down like this. Just get a little bit of the wrinkles in here. More white, running out of white. There's a lot of white. So if you're going to go get some white when you're doing acrylic, always get an extra bit of white, more compared to other colours, because you do use quite a lot of it. You do really do that. I suppose as a mixing white and just generally as a highlighter as well, you use quite a lot as well. So it's kind of like picking up bits of other things off the tray there. I'm not meant to pick up. 1, 2, 3. Just watching it, the things that I have here. Oh, we have to try here. I'm just going to get very light. So that's the jewellery piece here, so I'm just going to got a kind of a sparkly kind of thing on, so I'm just going to put a indication of that with just going off there from it. Little tiny arcs, those little tips. That's what you could do actually. You could actually spray it on in places actually. Where you have it, you use your brush a bit like this. It's like a toothbrush is actually ideal for this kind of stuff. The other thing is just be careful not to get on all the parts you don't want to get on, like all over the place or whatever. Kids like doing this bit. You use this in lots of different paintings. Use it for if you want to get a gravel effect or all kinds of place. So I'm just gonna, not so much on this side anyway, because it's all in shadow. But we're just not going to dwell too much on it. As I say, we could work on this forever, but I'm just going to give an idea, because what I would do then is I would keep going with this. So that's something there now as well. You know, I'd probably come back and look at this, and I keep changing it all the time. So I'm just going to work to a certain level, as I said at the beginning, and I'll put it up. As I say, it's very hard for me to see what it's like when I'm looking in the monitor thing there, the laptop. It's really hard to see. You can come back with the dark brown and the blue, which is what the colour I used earlier on was dark brown and blue to get that. I have a little bit of it here. You work back some of the shadows back through it. During the creases, lines you can bring back into it. So I'm just going to dot, 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 dot again. Okay, Tommy. Oh, Okay, I'll just finish up and I'll see how that goes. And the way I look at it is, this one I'll see I could work away on it, but I'm gonna put it up as it is so you can see it, because I don't know how you see it on that, because I can't see it properly. It's the contrasts are coming out really strong in it when I look in the monitor, but I really can't see what it's like. I can't really see what it's like in reality, but I'll put it up as it is so you'll be able to see what it's like then. And I say, if you have any questions, please let me know. If there's anything you'd like to do, or so just kind of to keep you occupied and things, maybe just encourage you maybe to give it a go and have it a try of it, because we're all, as I say, stuck at home at the minute, and can't really go out places and do the things we normally do, and so it's kind of, I suppose, fun for me to do it, but it's a challenge to do it as well. Yeah, that's looking very strange on the on the monitor now when I see that now on the laptop. So I'm going to take a photograph of it in a minute and put it up so you can see what it looks like in reality. So you can, and I'm going to mix a bit of my blue and my brown again, and I'm just going to go back up and just darken these bits down here. Just going to darken this corner of it here, so it's sort of in shadow, a bit more shadow than in the picture, but that's fine. Dries very fast, and even in this heat, because I have the cabin nice and warm, and it's quite a dry air though, because I have the heater on, and even though the sun is coming in, it's still a bit chilly now to just rely on the sun just yet, to warm it up. Even though it was lovely and warm out earlier on, there was nice heat out in that sun today. The impression of that jewellery. Now I just want to more up here. I'm not going to spend much more longer on it. Ooh, a bit too much. Too much. There's not really much of a light on it, right? Dark bit on the inside of the eye. And my hand is dry to paint here. colours are totally different now that I look in the monitor than they are on the canvas, so I haven't a clue what you're seeing now. But anyway, it's not really. I'll see when I take a photograph. You'll see. Let's give you time. Let's have a look here. There's a bit of shadow in here. Really forgetting to stay there another minute. I'm so busy here just concentrating on this. So I'm just getting little bits of shadow. I want to finish up this bit so far, and I might work on this later on. But for now, I'm going to show you, as I say, online. I'll put up what I've done so far because I don't want. It's hard, as I say, for me even to see what's on the screen. Whatever way it comes up on the screen, it's very hard to judge. Just the lighting is very strange, but it's it doesn't look the same colours as I'm seeing. But we'll see. That puts it straight away, so you'll be able to see it anyway. What's happened so far? Little half tone in here. That one comes up there. That line has to come back a bit, I think. Yes, I'm talking to myself, don't mind that. I'm just talking to see what I think. Just moving the lines around a little bit. Bum, 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 bum. Let's get this. Can't see what I'm doing here. The lights look great. Let's put on put on the lights. See, the lights changed now in the last half an hour or so. It's just getting a bit later. The sun has moved around. Okay, so sorry, just going up there. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it now for now, and I'm just going to come, I'll work on that a bit later on. Probably won't work on it tonight because I'm going to take a break from it, because as I said, you need to get a walk away and look up, take a weight break. But I'm just going to put up exactly what we've done so far, and then actually I just want to get a bit more white on this before I do it. Very light. Now I'm going to leave it for now, and I'm going to come back to it later on. So I haven't a clue what it looks like. It looks really strange there on that there, because it's really contrast is very high on the camera. So I'm going to put a picture of it up, and I'll work away on it. Well, tomorrow probably. And so hopefully you've got a few little tips along the way. A few little so you go backwards and forwards into it. Say I've been doing it mostly looking at the picture myself. So hopefully hopefully it'll be encouraging that you might take out your brushes and paints and give it a go. As I say, I've been doing it live, so you're it's a process all the time, as I said at the beginning. So it's kind of been a bit of a challenge to do something live like that. But that's part of the job and part of the enjoyment of it in a sense, because you realise that you change. It's all organic. It's moving along all the time. So I'm going to put this up now, and you can see how far I've got with it. And yep, look at the state of my hands. There we go, typical. That's what I do. And on my arms, I test my palette on my arm. Anyhow, listen, thanks a million for joining me, and hopefully next week we'll do another one. And any suggestions of something you'd like to do, please let me know. And any questions you have, if I don't see them now, well, I can't see anything now, but at the moment. But if you do, please let me know in the comments. And thanks a million. And I'll put this up now. Thanks, Sienna. Thanks again. Oh, and there's kids one. Sorry, before you go, there's a kids one tomorrow's Tuesday, 12 o'clock, and we're doing it now. Barn owl in a tree. Okay, bye bye.